This week on the Storycraft Society, we're going to be sticking with our theme of simple but useful DM tricks. Let's jump into it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin. This is the Storycraft Society, and over the last few weeks, the idea of simple but useful DMing tricks has been rolling around in my head, and it's been basically the core of my focus because all of the DMing videos that I watch and the DM trick tips that I see are rooted in this idea that it's super complicated or super difficult to be an effective DM. And I don't like that concept because to me, the most effective DMing is incredibly simple, and making it simple on yourself makes you more prolific and you get more stuff done, which in turn makes you feel like you did an even better job running your game, or at least that's the way that it makes me feel. So for this week, I need to get prepped for the next leg of my D&D campaign. And in thinking about it, I realized that I could boil down this prep into 3 basic questions. These 3 basic questions will help me to pinpoint exactly what I need to do in this next chapter. And then as soon as I get those things written, then everything else is just details and fluff that I get to fill in to fill all of the pockets out. So with that said, Olivia can hear what I'm saying because she's working in the other room. So I'm gonna go shut the door and then we're gonna dive into it. I realize you can't listen to any of this because I'm gonna be spoiling campaign stuff. Done. The first trick that I'm gonna say is if you are not using Google Docs for your DMing prep, I think you are messing up big time because I found that it is so easy to go between my cell phone and my laptop and my desktop that I can just hop around and prep exactly where I need to, when I need to. Boy, this program is like cheat code for DMing. But with that said, did I call it a program? This application, this tool, is like a cheat code for DMing. All right, let's get into it. So the thing that I have set up right here is 3 easy D&D game prep questions. There's gonna be 3. So what are they? The very first one is, who is the antagonist for this leg? What does that mean? Well, who is the antagonist? Who is going to be the adversary to the players? That could be a big bad evil guy. That could also be nature. That could be survival. That could be interplanar travel. The antagonist does not always have to be a figure, but it has to be what is going to cause the players to find adversity. Question number 2 comes in very simply as, where do the characters need to go? That concept, where do the characters need to go, is as simple as it sounds. Sometimes it's they need to go to this dungeon. Sometimes it's they need to go 3 towns over. Sometimes it's just they need to go find the wizard's tower, right? You need to know where the characters are going in order to be able to prepare anything, basically. And then moving on to question 3, that is going to be my favorite of the bunch, which is, how do the characters, boy, I can't spell, if any, connect to this leg? Let's do a quick little fix there. How do the characters connect, if any, to this leg? And this is my favorite because this is going to be taking your player characters and deciding that if any of them have access or backstory connection to this leg. I encourage every DM out there to try and find at least one of your players that connects with each leg, and the more you can incorporate in organic and natural ways, the more your players will all be excited that their characters are being pulled into this story. Now that I have all of these 3 questions out, I'm going to then now move on to preparing for my leg of the story, and I'll explain how I take all 3 of these questions and put them to use. So for all of what I'm about to say next to make sense, I'm going to give you the literal quickest recap of what has happened in my current D&D game. So my players have all found these red crystals, and they can't figure out what they are, but they know that they are killing animals that spend any time near them, and they know that they're bad news, but they can't figure out what is going on with them. They have also found that a long time ago, there were cults that worshipped these crystals, or the person that created them, and they are now trying to figure out why these crystals are either making a resurgence now, or if it's just something that needs to be made known to the world so that people with power can get rid of them when they find them. That's what's happened so far. So now they are headed to an ancient ruined castle, and they're going to be delivering goods there. But what they don't know is when they arrive, the camp at this old ruin that is currently doing the excavation there is going to be decimated. And specifically, it's going to be decimated by the cult that is trying to now bring back a resurgence of these red crystals. So, for who is the antagonist for this leg, I'm going to come down and I'm going to answer that very simply. The Cult of Trithenon. Boom. Still can't spell, but that's the answer. The Cult of Trithenon is the antagonist for this leg. They're going to be going from level 4 to level 5, so that is going to be the time where I really want the story to open up and they feel like they are earning that tier 2 status in the adventure. But we don't have to stop there, because if I say the Cult of Trithenon, that is simply the answer of who the antagonist is for this leg. But now I need to add a second question that will help me to then understand what that cult's goal is. So the question that I'm going to add is, what would happen if the players did not interject? This is a simple question that I don't hear enough DMs talking about and thinking about. Really, the idea of what should happen in a D&D adventure is that the players are getting in the way of the bad guys. At least that's the way that I like to see it. So the question of what would happen if the players did not interject will tell you what the cult's goals are, how they would enact those goals. So for me, what would happen if the players did not interject? The answer is the cult would find the evil staff. I don't have a name for it yet, but that is what they are currently in the ruins looking for, and would use it to kill off the excavators and other... Actually, to kill off the excavators and turn Dal'Ara Grim, that's the name of the old ruin that they're at, into their base of operations. It's very simple that if the players did not show up to interject in this moment, the Cult of Trithenon would go in, unchecked, into the ruin. They would find the evil staff that they're looking for, and then they would make that ruin, Dal'Ara Grim, into their base of operations. From there, it is so simple to start seeing the things that the cult has at their disposal and how they would go about those things. And then also, the players now have a very clear path of interjection. If they stop the cultists by either capturing or killing them, then they have interceded and they have messed up the cult's plans. Fixing another spelling error. I can't even say error right. Woo. If you notice, I've already answered question 2. We're moving on to question 2, which is, where do the characters need to go? And the answer is they need to go to Dal'Ara Grim. It's a ruin. And once you answer where do the characters need to go, then you'll notice that you'll have an immediate follow-up question, which is, how do they get there? In my example, I've already started them on the path to get there. They are escorting goods to the camp of excavators. Since my players are going to be escorting these goods to the camp of excavators, then they're going to find the excavators camp in ruin as the cult has just made an attack and ran down into the ruin, and now the players are going to be called to action to deal with the situation. Again, this is very simple stuff, and it might feel to you, if you have been DMing for a long time, that a lot of these questions are second nature, but sometimes simplifying will allow you to have the most clarity of mind. And if you're anything like me, by simplifying like this, you start asking a whole bunch more questions that just topple out, like who are the cult members and what is down in the ruin, and that makes your prep progress and direction so much simpler than staring out into a blank, fuzzy void of nothingness, which is what happens to me if I don't have a goal. Let's move on to question 3. Question 3, like I said before, is my absolute favorite. And the reason that I think it's my favorite is because it's going to be the difference between you running a game where your players are following along and it feels railroady and they feel like they're adventuring, but they're not driving the story forward. And it turns that same player into someone who realizes that their character is being called to the forefront of the story. So the question of how do the characters, if any, connect to this leg can be answered for me in a couple of ways. I'm going to have a bunch of ways that my characters connect. The first way is one PC is a member of the organization that is excavating the ruin. So the first one for me is very simple. One of my PCs is a member of that organization. When the camp is attacked, there will be people that he knows that have been hurt in that attack. That will immediately draw his character in and go, well, I want to avenge my friends and colleagues that were hurt. Another one of my PCs is a fighter who has ancient ties to a fighting style that was used by the society that built this ruined castle originally. One of my characters is a blade singer, and in my setting, blade singing is a dead art that was only done by this ancient society called the Boterier Rain-Targrins. His family has kept this tradition alive, and there's a lot of story reasons for that. They don't know why they do it, they just know that their family is the only ones who can. So, when he goes down into this ruin, he is going to find all kinds of relics and old tapestries and carvings and reliefs that all show people fighting just like him. That will make him invested in this location to try and see what secrets from his history are here. I'll do one more because I figure if every single PC is pulled, then that feels like a big climactic story moment. So sometimes it's better to just have one here or there. I think one of the PCs, actually, here you go. One of my PCs has a memory of when they were a child. They were an orphan. They have no memories of any kind of family. They grew up on the streets of the big city of Pullman. But the one memory that they have, or their oldest memory, I should say, is of a room filled with tree carvings. Again, my player gave me that little nugget as a totally loose thing that I can do whatever I want with, and they've already found one of these tree carvings. So wouldn't it be interesting if one of the PCs finds a ancient version of a tree carving in a locked chest in a room of the ruin. So while they're down there, he will find something locked away that, for whatever reason, one of these ancient Boterier Rain-Targrins felt like it was important to lock that tree carving away. Is there some secret art to this? Is there some secret hidden badge of a secret society? Again, very interesting, and I'm going to leave that actually gray for now, because until I have a really good reason to bring that forward, I'm not going to have my player find that information out, which keeps the mystery alive and keeps them chasing the story. So hopefully you enjoyed this really simplistic way to break down DM prep. But for me, I can take this very simple footprint that took me about, well, with filming, it took me 20 minutes to do. I feel like every DM can fit 20 minutes into their schedule per week, and if this just takes 20 minutes of quickly jotting these questions down and then coming up with an answer for them, I think any DM can then expand out on that. Now, this is not going to figure out stat blocks. This is not going to figure out, mechanical things that will drive the adventure, but for me, the mechanical stuff always comes second. I can always flip open a monster manual and pull out a generic cultist stat block and then throw that onto the table as something that my players need to fight if I have to. But this is the stuff that will keep them drawn in and chasing that nugget of story forever. And each time you do this, you will find ways that this will connect back to the things that you've previously done. And then also you'll find ways to connect this forward. So for example, with these 3 questions for me, my players had already found the crystals and they knew that there was something insidious about them, but then now they're also going to be going after the Cult of Trithanon, which is the big bad organization in my game this time. I can see exactly where this particular chapter will set right in between those two, and then from here I can start to expand out on those things, particularly how my characters, if any, connect into this story. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely leave me a like and a comment down below. Definitely let me know, I say this with every one of these super simple but useful DM tip videos, what is your super simple but useful DM questions that you ask yourself when you are prepping for a game? Leave those down in the comments below, and I would love to check them out and see if maybe I want to add them into my roster of what I do. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. The #1 way that you can help a small YouTube channel out is to share their videos with someone that you think would enjoy it, and definitely the way that you can help me out is by sharing this video with a friend or an aspiring DM or an experienced DM just to get their thoughts. That helps out small channels so much. But thanks so much everyone for the luxury of your attention, and until next week, I'll be seeing you.